Hey, good morning, everyone. Jimmy Cotty here with the Georgia Ready Mix Concrete Association. It's good to see you guys again. And this morning, I'm joined by the Commissioner of the Georgia Department of Transportation, Mr. Russell McMurry, a friend of our industry and someone we've gotten to know and work with through the years. And last week, if you tuned in, we talked with John Hunt about sort of the state of the housing industry, and we've decided we're going to catch up with the GDOT Commissioner and just kind of find out a little bit from him how this COVID-19 pandemic has affected GDOT and just maybe some of the issues that may be in play going forward there. So I'm just going to get right into it. I'm going to throw it over to the commissioner and just tell us how you're doing, how your team's doing, and tell us a little bit about how this pandemic's been affecting GDOT kind of in the short term and some of the adjustments you've been making.
Well, thank you, Jimmy, and certainly glad to be with everybody today and try to give you a little bit of overview of what's going on at GDOT. We're just like you. We are operating much differently, being an essential function, and the construction and transportation industry, very importantly, was deemed an essential function early on by Homeland Security, Cyber, and Infrastructure Agency, which was very important, obviously, to keep our job sectors moving forward. But we're working differently. We've got over 1,500 employees now teleworking, which is over a third of our staff. And before that, we only had about 100 people teleworking. So obviously, just like everybody, we've adapted, especially in those office and administration jobs. But more importantly, out on the job sites and our maintenance crews and our construction management and oversight inspection teams obviously are operating very differently, much like your members are, Jimmy. Of trying to work with personal hygiene and sanitation and self-distance while out on the work sites, and that certainly has been a challenge for everybody. But I'm very proud of us at GDOT of being able to accomplish that, and you as the industry of all working together to continue to drive the economy forward as much as we can in those situations. So things are going well. One of the things I'm very proud of, and I say this humbly, is that we've played a large role in moving medical supplies and equipment and goods in coordination with GMA and the Department of Public Health. And almost daily, even on weekends, we're hauling materials and supplies all over the state of Georgia, so to medical facilities and to distribution centers. So, we're playing a little bit of a role in the health side of this as well, but more importantly is still out there open for business in construction and the maintenance side.
That's great to hear, Commissioner. I'm sure that's been an adjustment and sort of new for some of the areas where you guys are involved with now. Certainly never knew the Commissioner of the Department of Transportation would be involved in public health. But yeah, that's the world we are in today. And so thank you for doing that. And but just some of the issues, probably the biggest unintended consequence that's going to affect the DOT has just been with these stay-at-home orders. There's been a substantial drop in motor fuel collections. GDOT's fiscal year ends the end of June. We know you have a plan in place, at least through then. But AASHTO has been making an ask of Congress for some stopgap funding to help sort of backstop state DOTs throughout the country. What is anticipated in terms of some of that funding? Are you hearing anything there? And what does the department's plan look like now through the end of the fiscal year and then going forward?
Yeah, indeed. Obviously, when people don't drive as much, that's loss of revenue due to gas consumption, which is excise tax, which drives our budget forward. But let me affirm a few things very importantly. Is one, is through the end of this fiscal year, so through June, is we're solid. So we have, that budget is good. That budget was approved and signed by the governor, and we're still operating on that budget. So here we are in mid-May, and know that all the way through June we're solid. Our construction lettings through June are good, and in fact June was very big for us. We were $370 million in June, and what we've done is taken a few of those projects and sprinkled them out into the first quarter of next fiscal year, which will help again keep the workflow going and not have sort of a supersized letting, but spread that in that first quarter, which is important because fiscal year 21, GDOT is like every state agency in taking a 14% budget reduction. And so we're underway now of what that looks like. Our intention is to try to take that 14% sort of across the board as much as we can. Obviously, our capital program is a big one, but we're trying to, again, be balanced in how we take that so it doesn't necessarily become from all capital. So we'll have to present that to our state transportation board on the 21st of this next week. So we're working through that. And as it relates to funding, let me share this with you. This last week, our revenue number for motor fuel came in actually higher than a year ago. And there was the Department of Revenue had done an audit and got some remittance back, which actually increased the revenue for last month. So we had anticipated a decline and actually got a little bit of a bump. So that's a good news story there, which leads me a little bit to traffic. As we're watching traffic volumes, I feel like we've seen the worst. We've seen the traffic volumes bottom out some 45 to maybe 50% of normal. And we begin to see that traffic volume numbers tick back up. Now, I don't want to say there's a trend to recovery yet, but we've seen those numbers begin to pick back up and move in a positive direction. And when I talk about traffic volumes, that's one thing, but there's one thing we monitor as well, and that's called vehicle miles traveled. How much are people driving, not how many trips they're making, but how far they're driving. And of course, that number was down even more significantly because not only are people driving less trips, but they're driving fewer miles. So that number we're watching too, and it's beginning to recover as well and pick back up. So that's a positive trend. So I feel like we've seen the worst. Now, what does that mean for our ultimate budget impact? Well, at the state level, it's 14%. That's the directions from the governor's office, and that's where we're starting. So it could be a lot worse, in my opinion. So 14% is sizable, but at least we're moving in a forward direction. Now, AASHTO has recommended almost a $50 billion, $49.9 billion backstop from Congress as part of Stimulus 4. And I think that's certainly a good notion from AASHTO and looking at how all states have been affected in one way or another due to COVID-19. And I think that's really important. We've certainly reached out to our congressional delegation and both senators and talked to them about what we're seeing from what I just shared with you with traffic volumes and the like, and know that there will be impacts. And more importantly, as we move toward the end of the federal fiscal year in September, is the FAST Act expired, so our U.S. transportation funding bill needs to be either extended or hopefully reauthorized at newer and higher levels, which would be good for the transportation sector. So, watching a couple of things at the congressional front is hopefully Stimulus 4 may have some kind of backfill, maybe similar to the CARES Act, which helped pay for operations and just, daily functions of the FAA and Federal Transit Administration. So hopefully that would apply to Federal Highway in a similar way. So a lot of things going on. We're certainly continuing our lettings starting in July. They will just be a little bit metered out, but we're still looking really good on our letting level. I mean, we're over $100 million every month through December. Some of those months are closer to 200. So I feel like we're still in a good situation. We're just being cautious and a little conservative at this point till we see how recovery goes and we get through the budget process, which is expected to be done, of course, before July 1.
Understood, sir. Well, that's actually quite a bit of good news there. And I can testify that we've seen the traffic picking back up, just personally getting out. I will say that'll be disappointing to the ready mix drivers who have really enjoyed the lack of traffic on the road, moving product from plant to jobs with little delay. So it's kind of a mixed bag there for us. But no, but that's some good news. And our members, we've done calls with members of Congress, and we have relayed some of the same concerns and let them know where we stand with support on surface transportation reauthorization, with backstop funding and whatnot. So, and I know that the highway contractors, the Aggregate Association, and some of our other industry partners have been doing likewise. So we've tried to pull our weight a little bit with regards to that too, and keep work going. And but that's great to hear from you. Before we sign off here, are there things specifically our industry, the ready mix industry, could be doing either to help keep jobs going, help keep your job sites safer? Any message for the folks out there in the concrete cement industries that are partners with GDOT?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jimmy. Absolutely. You know, as I've told our staff and I've told the Georgia Highway Contractors Association as well, you know, we're very visible targets on our project sites. You know, we're out along the road, so you got everybody watching. So just continue to do the great things you're doing, you know, practicing self-distancing and, you know, hygiene practices, and just, you know, just watch out for those opportunities for people to critique you or criticize us as an industry for being gathered up together. You know, it's about to be summertime, and, you know, sometimes it's nice to get under the shade tree and cool off a little bit, or the shade of even the side of the truck. You know, let's tell your drivers to, you know, don't let the other construction crews gather around, or, you know, just even grabbing the water hose to wash something out, or wash your wheelbarrow out or something like that. Just know that there's a lot of eyeballs passing by our work sites every day, and we just don't want to give anybody any ammunition to criticize or critique, you know, the construction industry. So just continue those things and keep doing the same things you're doing at the plants, and you know, just all the things all of us are trying to do to stay healthy. And I think that's the other important thing is obviously care for our employees, and as you care for your employees, that's the best thing we can do is take care of them, keep them healthy, and coming back to work every day.
Listen, we appreciate your time this morning, and as always, Commissioner, if there's anything we can do to assist you guys, just let us know. Just reach out our way, and we'd love to collaborate. So thank you again, Commissioner Russell McMurry with Georgia Department of Transportation.